My name is Tim Hillison. I am the founder and CMO of Entry Point One, and I'm happy to be here today. We are going to be talking about why precision is better than persuasion. As someone who has been in marketing for about 25 years, I can tell you we have all gone and tried to cajole people. It really is about the data. We are going to dive deep in it. And just a few stats that are really interesting. GTM Partners surveyed 700 organizations of different sizes. Only 46% of them said that they have one GTM ICP. And then Aberdeen, another company, sliced the data a different way and found that about 200 those companies that were aligned on their ICP had about a 208% productivity increase from those that are misaligned. And so, it's really important that we understand that, again, we're in the age of precision. We've got to manage VUCA or it will manage us. And hope is not a strategy. When we take a flight coast to coast, say New York to Los Angeles, and we leave JFK, just 1 degree off heading towards LA, and we will arrive at a different airport than other than Los Angeles International. And that means that we're late to our meeting and that there are a bunch of problems. Again, this drift isn't detected during takeoff, but it certainly is noticed by everyone at landing. And, GTM drift is exactly the same. Um, and so when we layer on top of that something called VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, which Harvard Business Review made popular in 2012, it's a whole lot of different world, and we just need to get used to it. So, volatility on June 6th of 2025. Given the tariffs going on and off again, a $1.6 billion EV battery company started and stopped operations continually, and, their workers didn't know what to do. Um, on June 5th, Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic, that makes the popular LLM Claude, of which I'm addicted to, um, warned of a job apocalypse. And this was, 50% of entry-level jobs will be taken by AI within the next 5 years. Complexity. On May 2025, Product Hunt had over 700 different AI products cataloged. And ambiguity. Just last week, I received 3 different ICPs from the same company, customer success, marketing, and SDRs. Again, same company, 3 different truths, right? And so, how we blend that and manage that and build precision around our ICP is the topic we're going to be talking about today. Um, Let's keep in mind that 82% of leaders will hire AI agents next year. That is according to Microsoft's Future of Work report from February 2025. And that 71% of spend on right now of GTM spend chases non-best fit accounts that are not ICP related. So, if you're a big sports fan like I am, you may recognize this game where the Mavs and the Rockets were playing. It was March 2024, and Luka Doncic was going down the baseline, driving for the basket, and boom, Amen Thompson came right in and swatted down his layup. Hope was blocked. Okay. And so when you think about it at that level too, this happens to all of us. And in the 2000s, CRM projects had about a 70% failure rate. Change management the same way, right? marketing automation and ABM in the 2010s, 2020s the same way. And this is because the data that goes in is going to help get the results that come out. So the inputs justify the outputs. And so, bad in, bad out. And so I have three questions for you to determine if hope is still a strategy at your company. One is, who owns your ICP development and refresh policy? Secondly, what is one lost logo that you can clearly describe that was a bad ICP fit? And then thirdly, when was the last time that you actually killed a channel, a marketing channel? If you had difficulty in answering any of those three questions, I would definitely say very nicely that hope is still a strategy at your firm. And it is important that you understand, or we understand, how to get to the bottom of that so that we become more precise and rely much more on objective data and not that persuasion to continue doing things that may or may not be effective. So I've got to say that I still believe that one of the best metaphors for a GTM, the soccer team, and specifically, I'd like to highlight the U.S. Women's National Team that was just on fire for so long. But one of the key things is that in life, in GTM, et cetera, the ball doesn't always go where we want it to go or we think it will go. And so, one of the exceptional things that the U.S. women's soccer team had was not only did they know their positions well, but everyone else knew the other person's positions well. And this is how high performance GTM works. And so, here you see the striker, but I'm sure Rapinoe and Horan were just adjusting in the background, right? Think about how our teams at work are. If, marketing does something, is sales adjusting? Is if sales does something, is marketing adjusting, etc., or no, because they are operating in silos. I think that there's two important facts here. Is one is that, when there was a POV or positioning refresh within 12 months of 63% of companies showed an increase in their ARR, right? And what's important here is, as times change, remember, positioning is a business initiative. It is often led by marketing or product marketing, but it covers the entire business and should be cross-functional by nature. The guru of positioning, April Dunford, who is a great person, says, something that I love: positioning sets the context, data scales it. Right. And so, again, when we want to look at how we're going to manifest the alignment equation here, really, I'm going to say, let us over index on objective data and try to really understand what subjectively is out there. So if you're an F1 fan like me, I think that what's really interesting is if you lock onto this pit crew, 22 humans, 8 seconds, no wasted motions, and think about buyer expectations these days. Very much the same. They are, doing research 70 or 80% before sales even gets to them, right? I mean, this is how fast it's working, and we need to understand not only the buyer psychology, but what our company objectives are. And if you think about it, GTM Partners had some running data that I think is fascinating and proves the point of VUCA, right? 2023, 47% of companies surveys said that they were happy with a 6-month ROI. Fast forward to 2024, 57% expected ROI within 3 months of having the product. And now with, AI just coming on so quickly, 78% expect ROI within 1 month. 30 days. And, we have seen rise of PLG, everything's $20. Again, your product may not be, but it's important to understand these dynamics, these expectations, and how buyers are going to buy so that we can actually target them much more precisely. And again, really eliminate what is not working. Again, remember, a dynamic ICP engine is composed of a variety of things, firmographics, psychographics, technographics, intent signals. And then again, really you need to understand the cadence of your sales cycle and how your company operates. Are you slower or faster? Really, let's remember precision is a habit, not a project. And, look at key metrics, for example, such as sales velocity, as how many touches, buying committee. These are things that are going to be incredibly important in you teeing up what experiments you're going to run. And remember, this also needs to have new dynamic scoring involved in it. AI will flag a drift. Humans tighten the bolts and precision compounds. And remember that it is up to us to be very systematic with this. So I'd like to share a little caselet with you. AI company. And again, one of the key things was developing the positioning and understanding in which category they were going to operate and really flipping that on its head. But, they were targeting everyone and sales cycles were taking forever. And one of the things that we did was bring it down from 8,000 accounts to about 2,000 accounts. The reply rate went from less than 1% to 9.1%. Win rates shot up to 6.9%. And technology had done a web page and written messaging, and they were literally getting tens of hits per month. And through the positioning and the messaging, we got them up to about 5,000 per month. Just huge. But the activation was intent triggered, outbound sequences, again, automation there, slight website personalization. Remember, it just depends on who you're targeting for what is more important. Not everything needs a ton of bells and whistles. And this was a startup company. The enrichment was all around technographics here. And again, 95% human verified contacts. This was huge. We used Apollo for firmographics. We used a little bit of Clay and some other sources as well. But some of the signals that were really key to us were vector database utilization or the evaluation surge, who was using them specifically in regards to Postman and Pinecone. Again, this happened to be a dynamic API builder and hosting on AWS or Azure for the companies. So those were very important things. They allowed us to narrow down and be more precise, but also to test things with them too. So we ran a combination of not only the ICP and the positioning, but also some market research too, just to make sure that everyone was aligned. And then, the firmographics that we used as well. Again, one of the key takeaway here is that, when we engineered the ICP, we started tripling wins in as short as 9 weeks. The next case study, because Entry Point One targets engineering-led startups and mid-market scale-ups. This is a health tech company or a med tech company. And I think that what's really fascinating about this is, you know, there was a dual ICP and they weren't targeting that. And when we went through and looked at what their sales process was and helped to reposition them, we realized that there was a lot of opportunity there. Again, their reply rates to emails and outreach was less than 1%. We were able to boost that up to about 16.2. The win rate shot up to 11, but I think that the most stunning fact with being precise about who their ICP was is we were able to reduce their sales cycle by about 75%, over 100 days to 28 days. It was incredible. One of the things that we did with their campaigns was to stop using programmatic and focus on hyper local advertising. Again, it was about people like me using geofenced SDR cadences, enriching in regards to healthcare data like HL7, mobile. Number verification. And then some of the signals that we looked at were, physician ordering intent. So, for example, this was sleep apnea. So, they needed to have a sleep test, for example. Also, reimbursement news from their insurance. The technographics used something called Epic, which is a protocol for electronic healthcare records. Then it used also F here, which is the fast healthcare protocol, and then PAX, which is in regards to picture archival. And so by focusing on some of those different things that were important with its process, we were really able to then say, okay, with these firmographics in regards to doctors and to the end patients, this is how it's going to roll. And again, I think that what was so surprising to the executive team is that we were able to cut a lot of things out of what they sold and or their selling process, excuse me, and just be much more simple, right? And so again, AI crunches the data, we build the relationships. So really quickly here, we have a lot of different data sources, but one thing I want to mention about SalesIntel is, I've relied on them a bunch of times because again, working with engineering-led startups and mid-market scale-ups, technographics is something that's very important to me. And one of the key things, and I'm going to show a demo here, a very short demo. There's about 12,855 companies, manufacturing companies across the United States. And that's 13,042 contacts. That is a big number. I want to just do a very quick campaign and involve my SDRs. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter a pretty new technographic. I'm going to go over to tech product and I'm going to pick Claude by Anthropic. Okay. And I am going to update this data set right now. And what you see, boom, is now I've got 51 companies and 455 contacts. Now, what I want to do is I want to go over to the contacts and I want to make sure I only want human verified contacts, just to be sure. Again, one of the great things is that, I can use AI augmented data, but Heidel or human in the loop verified data. And look, 455, this allows me then to, export all of the contacts and put them in my database. But, more importantly, let's remember a few things. Our goal is to become more precise, and we end up becoming actually more persuasive as a result of this precision. Also, every company today is a tech company or is beginning to be a tech company. I used Claude if the technographic signal you want, say, for example, in my case study, it was Pinecone or Postman, is not there. Call the friendly folks at SalesIntel. They can get it for you in a week or two. And remember, as we become more precise, we are reducing that 20 to 30% waste for non-ICP fit accounts in all of our outreach sales and marketing GTM efforts. But how do we go from a static ICP, which was most people have, and maybe they're updating it annually or not, to those who are a little bit more modern, perhaps updating it quarterly to something of a more dynamic ICP, given that ROI expectations are around 30 days, and developing agile practices on the GTM team to really focus in on the data. Again, what's going to happen here is you are going to increase your alignment across the GTM team by becoming much more precise with the data, but you're also going to feel that confidence surge to cut that tier three and take that 20-30% and reinvest it. Your CFO is going to be incredibly happy because, again, remember, tier one are best fit customers. And so, therefore, by default, their sales velocity is going to be stronger, and chances are their ACV is too. I think that what we want to do is, again, reinvest and then iterate in sprints. And so it's really important that you understand the propensity of your company and how flexible it is and the resourcing that you have. Are you, doing two-week sprints? Are you doing 4 1-week sprints? It's really important. But the key thing here is remember, precision is a habit. It is not a project. And so it is going to take a while to get into that cadence. When we look practically at that, what does that mean? Here's an image of the Paris Olympics and the 800 meter women's race. I thought about what happens in companies where I work and how I sort of tee that up. And I came up with a process that is a virtuous circle called PACE, Probe, Architect, Coordinate, and Execute. And why? And that is because Insight Partners showed this year that, anytime an ICP audit happens before AI demand gen activity, 65% of those projects see more success, right? Um, I think that that's incredibly telling. So, probe, audit your ICP, architect, engineer it, figure out what are those signals, what are those dimensions, again, firmographic, psychographic, technographic, if there are any barriers or behaviors that need to be there or complementary factors that are there as well. Product launch, for example, or some of the different things that we look at in the signals reports. Coordinate across the team. That means align with them. Again, when we rely more on objective data and not so much subjective opinions, which is, we've not had that until now. And so it's super exciting, but you got to go deep and you got to be precise. And then the next thing is execute. And what I mean by execute here is, again, looking at what those experiments are, starting small, scaling up. So, when we're less uncertain, we need to become more deliberate. And what does that mean? It means it falls on us. So, our inputs are going to condition our outputs. And we know when we are working across these different data sources, having confidence in them is incredibly important. Just look at what our CRM systems are. A lot of times it says that they're filled with faulty or wrong data, right? Make sure that, the sales team is really upping that game as, marketing may be upping the different data sources and coordinating across. It really is one team. And RevOps is really helping to spearhead that cleanliness. Initiative, right? I think that verified signal recovers up to 30% of loss within 2 quarters. That was by a study from SalesIntel and MIT. And, really, again, being very precise about that is what's going to put money back in our pocket. And so, in this VUCA world where we're worried about jobs or we're worried about budgets or we're worried about, all of these different things, these are the aces in our pockets that we can use to leverage and figure out how they work, but we need to move quickly. Again, remember, precision is a habit. It is not a project. Execution beats theory every time. If you'd like to connect on LinkedIn, my name's Tim Hillison. And if you would like to download the process for building a dynamic ICP, visit entrypoint1.com. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.